So I'm kind of a big hypocrite. I've mostly stopped using apps like Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram because I feel like they just make you feel like your life is unfulfilling and you need to get things to make it better. But then I'll go over to YouTube and the algorithm just knows how to get me. I'll see all these videos and reviews about some product that is going to make your process better, make your videos look better. I'll watch all the videos, I'll buy the product, or I'll order it just to get that dopamine hit of like waiting for the product to come or installing it, then watching a bunch more tutorials, learning how to use it, trying to learn how to get the best settings. And then I'll use it for maybe 2-3 weeks, maybe a month, and then I'll never use it again. And then the cycle and the process repeats itself because I'm always trying to make my videos better, but by stacking all these pieces of tech, I make less and less videos. So one of the latest instances of this was picking up this 360 camera, which maybe I'll talk about in a future video, maybe I won't, I don't know. Being consistent is pretty difficult these days. But as I was obsessing over this, I was trying to get the best image quality possible. And I was going outside in the scorching Singapore heat, testing all the different settings, futzing around, trying to get the best image quality possible. And to my own consternation, I discovered that just setting it to auto performed way better than me going around tweaking every little settings, which gets really time consuming. Like, you don't want to go outside and shoot something right away and then you're like, oh nope, gotta get shutter speed correct, gotta get ISO correct, am I in the right low light, non-low light? Nope, just setting it to auto and letting it go gave me pretty good image results, and it really made me kind of think and reflect on things. So I kind of reflected a bit on how the increase in the amount of equipment I had directly correlated with the decrease in the number of videos that I actually produced, especially on this channel. And I mean, just look at this thing that I'm talking into. It takes forever to get this set up, and also there's a nice justification of using the 360 camera. So I know it's pretty standard advice to just get the things that are not going to get in your way, that are going to make the job easier, not take more time. So I decided to dig up the various cameras that I still have and kind of reflect on why I picked up these cameras, and also why I decided to upgrade to the next level of camera, and kind of just talk myself through my own delusion of this constant need to upgrade. Alright, let's start with the cameras that I started my career with. Yes, Logitech webcams. Even when I was streaming on a MacBook, when I first started streaming, I was using Logitech webcams all the way until I got my first camcorder. Now, if you need to go outside and film stuff, basically anywhere else besides home, these aren't so great. But if you're just sitting somewhere talking about video games, talking about nothing, talking about nonsense like how you waste too much money on cameras, these are perfect. And I would even say there's kind of like a retro aesthetic with these that can make them kind of appealing versus like a super produced looking camera look. All you need to do really to improve these even a smidge and not ever need to actually buy a full-fledged camera is just throw some lighting up. Okay, so now the first actual proper camera I purchased for myself to create content with, it was the Panasonic Lumix GX8. And I'm actually kind of shocked that I still had this camera. I thought I would have gotten rid of it a long time ago, but maybe it survived for so long because it became my first glorified face cam / webcam. This was back in the days when I thought spending over $1,000 on any type of video equipment was absolutely absurd. So like pretty much everything else that I've bought, I obsessed for weeks over this camera, watching tons of videos. And this was going to be my vlogging camera for my budget KC night set aspirations. However, there was a couple pain points that I probably should have taken into account, but I wasn't too experienced yet with video production. So the first was a lack of a proper microphone input jack. It was like this 2.5mm instead of 3.5mm. So I always needed to have an adapter attached to it to record audio. So the second was a Micro Four Thirds format. Now it could offer some benefits, like the lenses were a little bit cheaper, and on cameras like the GH5 and beyond, the in-body stabilization was pretty good. But you also had to deal with a lot of like weird things. Like I didn't realize the whole thing with like a crop factor, and the cameras tended to have bad autofocus. You can probably see on the second angle from the GX8 the hunting that's going on. They weren't so good in low light, but these things aren't really relevant if you're just recording on a set with good lighting. You can set manual focus, have a monitor to check that you're in focus, and you can have good lighting so you don't have to deal with terrible low light. So kind of a moot point in a sense these days. But really at the time, I was just feeling that FOMO because I was seeing all these new full frame cameras coming out with that amazing looking bokeh, blurry background. and I wanted to get my hands on that. I also wanted to get my hands on this cat, who definitely wanted to be in this video because she was sniffing around. Say hi, Taco. Say hi to the camera. So then I shifted into my Sony Fanboy Saga, going with the Sony a7 III, which I bought all the goodies for, including the Ninja V, just to get that little bit of juice out of the 8-bit footage. And it's probably the camera that I produce the most videos on, especially with the 55mm Zeiss 1.8 lens, and both of which the lens and the camera I eventually sold. However, the hype came back again once the Sony a7S III was announced. Here was the dream camera with, 10-bit on video, so you could do all your crazy color grades, a flippy screen, and slow-mo. Yet despite spending probably the equivalent of a down payment on a house on microphones and lenses and lighting, I doubled down even further and I picked up an FX6, which is what I'm actually talking to you on now. And I didn't make any videos. I kind of fell off. And I had to vow to myself not to repeat this mistake. And for a long time, I stayed strong. I didn't pick up any serious big purchases, or I didn't pick up any new cameras. In fact, I vowed not to fall down that same YouTube rabbit hole again. If I was going to buy a camera, it would be for someone else, my wife. However, picking up this action camera, which is actually still sitting in the box like 2 weeks after I picked it up, kind of triggered this sense of FOMO in me, and it made me remember this little bit of advice from Michael Scott.
Keep it simple, stupid. Great advice. Hurts my feelings every time.
So that's why I'm now talking to you on this camera, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, the apparent pinnacle of camera technology that will apparently simplify my life and make me create more and more videos quicker and faster. I mean, look, I can even move around now and it follows me. This is how you create compelling content. You move all around. Anyway, let's hop over to Future Lewis, who has been looking through these files and can give a scientific determination if I've just needlessly burnt a pile of cash like the Joker. All right, Future Lewis here with some footnotes and clarifications if you made it this far in the video. So first of all, looking at the Logitech footage, I think you need a little bit more than just good lights for that. You should also probably actually go in and tweak the camera settings, because that's about as overexposed as you could get just letting the camera look at me and letting it rock on the fly. So the Panasonic GX8 actually held up a lot better than I thought it would. In fact, I was pretty impressed when I saw it on the little preview monitor, because I actually needed to use a capture card for this because I have run out of SD cards, ironically. But when I actually put it into the editing software, I could see how the image was pretty soft and kind of fell apart a bit. Of course, I did take down the sharpening, but I think it was actually a lot higher quality than I thought it would. The 4K recording has some type of delay to it, or it increases the delay in the HDMI output, so there's a little bit of syncing work that needed to go out with that. But honestly, it is a huge step up from going from a webcam, and I think for most people that's about as far as you need to go, especially if you're doing just like a streamer setup type deal. Alright, so the big shock for me was the performance of the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. I was quite shocked at how well this camera could cut between like my end game setup with the FX6 and some absurdly expensive lens on it. Of course, like in things like the sky and stuff like that, it seemed to be kind of like oversaturated, looked a little weird. But this thing just cut really well with that camera. And of course, I think this was helped with the other zillion dollars of plugins and effects that I've, bought, DCTLs and all this. I'll cover all that in a different video. But it's quite a good value for its money. I think it's been well documented how good this camera is for a variety of situations. I think you could tell from my shaky gimbal movements and failed attempts at getting parallax shots. But yeah, kind of amplified my own existential crisis of, was it justified to spend all this money on this camera equipment when this little $500 thing is easier to use, easier to whip out, and good enough to get shots that takes so much time to set up with traditional cameras. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know what you think about the different cameras. Like, at what point did you think things were good enough? And was the little like extra 5-10% from going from the overkill setup worth it? And yeah, I had fun. Kept a little more of a casual style for this video. Hope to keep it casual in the camera equipment so I can make more videos. But yep, thanks for watching. See you next time.